Oh, what is it that you know? My name is 3+Kei, and I'm here to sing you a song. Welcome to the Secret Heart Club. Everyone does our part to bring love. We love day. We love Jesus at the Secret Heart Club. All right, baby, I'm here. I am here. Hey, Allison. You know what I was thinking, Allison? I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'm gonna cut to the chase, and I'm gonna ask you the question I've been wanting. I've been actually wanting to ask you a couple questions, Allison. And since we have the time, because this is kind of like a YOLO episode, Ask a Christian. If somebody comes on, sometimes people come on and they take it seriously, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, here's a Christian social worker. Let me ask her all of the things." Sometimes that happens. Sometimes nobody asks me nothing, and it's me just talking for a hot minute. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, Allison. Number 1, can I interview you for entering the chat? And what that entails. So part of and this is like a longer story for another time. Over the next year, I'm doing away, like every year I take at least 1 vacation. And instead, the goal is to interview interesting Christians in beautiful places. And so I have one coming up. I'm actually at the end of August. I have this friend that, and I'm going to let her tell her story, but she was an addict. The Lord delivered her from her addiction. And when I tell you, she has like founded 2 nonprofits. She has another business, which is like on-call peer support. Like, she is absolutely amazing. And it's funny because like when we first met, she kind of like strong-armed me. And then you know how it goes. I started talking about Jesus, and that wasn't the place. We were like somewhere else. And I didn't know her, but I was talking about Jesus. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Jesus." And then we became like instant friends. Anyway, she just bought a house outside of town. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Lakitha, it has this view, blah, 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 blah." I was like, "Yeah, can I interview you?" And here's the thing. And I do want to say this. You guys don't like know me personally, but I really take like integrity very seriously. I take my reputation seriously. And part of it, right, is because I have had such a sordid past. Like, I have not been any type of angel. I've said it before. I was in the streets and for the street, but God, right? So there's a lot. And I would predict as this channel moves forward, people are going to come out and be like, "Yeah, I knew Lakitha when she oop and I did it with Lakitha twice and on Tuesdays." Like, that's probably going to come out. So it's really important to me that I am who I say I am. And so some people, like, the closer in proximity you are, the better. But some people see that. Some people have seen the change. I used to live in Ben's basement. Ben has an apartment in his house, a downstairs apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment. I used to live down there. Ben might know a little more than I would like, right? But one thing is, Ben could tell you how I've changed over the last decade. Do you see what I'm saying? So anyway, back to Jessica. All I said was, "Can I interview you?" And she doesn't know what I've been up to. And she was like, "Yes." I was like, "Girl, let me tell you what I've been up to. Thank you." But anyway, so I'm going to go up to her beautiful house. She has dogs and I can't do that. So I'm going to stay in her camper. But anyway, I just love that she has a beautiful view, because we're going to do the interview with her beautiful view in the background. I'm going to be going to Texas probably in a few months. Anyway, interviewing interesting Christians in beautiful places is kind of the vibe. And I would love to come to you, Allison. You strike me as someone that has a dog, so I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe like an Airbnb or something like that. But anyway, let me see what you're saying. Just got to talking. You beatboxed it. Perfect. Hi, Sprunky. Nick says, shout out. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh. I didn't read it through. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't read it all the way through. Shout out my friend Holden. Tudix just passed from cancer. Can he get a shout out? Shout out to Holden. Did he know the Lord? Did Holden know the Lord? Allison says, yes, I love talking about Jesus. Haha. Sometimes I can get a little hung up on my words. I type better than I talk. Ben is a homie. Yeah, actually, I lived in Ben's house initially, like 13, 14 years ago. I rented a room in Ben's house, and then I moved to a different state. And I remembered that he had that apartment. It's a nice 2-bedroom apartment in his basement. And so when I moved back to Missoula, I just told Ben, and I just waited for those people to move out. And then I moved in, and had they not rented the 2-bedroom to me, I wouldn't have started fostering. And they used to call me from upstairs and be like, yeah, your kid is trying to escape out the window. That would be a call I would get from upstairs. Or your kid, they have a slumber party and the girls are trying to like climb out the window. Okay. Yeah, that happened. But if it wasn't for that 2-bedroom apartment at that time, I wouldn't have my daughter that comes on here sometimes, that pops in. So I have no animals, only children. Well, if that's the case, let me know if I can stay with you. That would be wonderful. No pressure, because I could also get an Airbnb. And I love kids, obviously. So that's the first question, Allison. The second question, and those of you who are on here, please ask me a question. I'm just talking to Allison right now. But oh wait. Come visit you. And then Ben, are you on here? You know Ben is mysterious. We're interviewing let me back this up. I'm interviewing Ben tomorrow during the new 7 p.m. live stream time. Like how we did with Afton, I'm going to have a camera set here that's live streaming essentially the behind the scenes and us filming the video. And then the video itself won't air until August 23rd, which happens to be my birthday. But yes, I bet Ben's on here. Ben likes to pop in and just be like, I'll be like talking about something and he'll pop in and he'll be like 1 Corinthians 7:13 and just leave that there and then back up out of the conversation. Ben is amazing. And I love that you guys are going to like see him and meet him. I feel like I tone it down a little bit for Ben. I feel like I would probably get on his nerves. Like if we spent like a whole full day together, be like, Ben, those are my text messages to him. It's like Ben with like 5 N's and then the confetti emoji. That's how I text Ben. But anyway, I guess he's not on here because he would have popped in by now or not. I don't know. But we've got this ministry to start. And so I don't know how much you know about, you still have to go fishing with Ben. Did I say I was going to? Because I meant to ask him. I got fishing poles because I wanted him to take me fishing. I don't know if I told him that though. I think I just got the poles and then money season started and I started working a lot. I was just saying today, I'm really tired. And we've got August, September, and October left of money season. And if you guys are here wondering what money season is, Proverbs will tell us, Proverbs will point us to the ant that works diligently and very hard for multiple seasons so that they can store up their food, similar to a squirrel, or the way a bear like overeats before it hibernates. I very much so subscribe to that lifestyle, and it allows it so that I can be a social worker. Because who's trying to be broke? Essentially. You know what I mean? Like, unless you want to be, but I want to be, I want to drive my nice car, and I want to eat like steaks, grass fed, like bison. I want to, like, you know what I mean? Live like that. So anyway, to start a ministry officially, it had to be a 501c3, which is a nonprofit status, and it requires a board. And so for the board, like a board of directors, we would need a chair, an accountant, a secretary, a cardboard, right? Yeah. We need people to help do this, right? And we need people who like believe in Pursue the Smile as a ministry. So come September, I'm going to be kind of whispering in you and Ben's ear, my friend Lacey. I think it would be a dream come true if Jessica would get on board, for her having started 3 nonprofits by now, 3 ministries by now. I think it would be a dream come true to get her involved. I just don't know if she like really has the time to be doing something like that. But stay tuned. Just know that that's on the radar. We also have Bucks and Bibles. So if you don't want to like join the board of Pursue the Smile ministries, Bucks and Bibles as a program, I would still want to get a group of people involved, so it's not just my brain. I can see while I'm talking about it, like areas where I could probably just use wisdom. Do you know what I mean? Wisdom and counsel. Such as, how do you give people Bibles with money in it and trust that they're not just like, yeah, I'll take me 5 Bibles with money in them. You know what I mean? Like, how do we like figure that out? And I don't know. Sir Barry, I'm new here. Can you shout out me? Hi, Sir Barry. Welcome. Welcome to this space. Guys, I'm fighting for my life not to get, Wendy's has these brownie batter frosty swirl. These brownie batter frosty swirl, swirlies, whatever they're called, frosties. And the thing is delicious. And I'll tell you, I was at Wendy's so much. The guy, I think he has a crush on me. Like the guy who gives you your food. I was there so much. He's like, you know, these aren't good for you. And I was like, oof. Okay, I'm not coming back to get these now that you said that to me. Allison said, maybe see if they will put their own money in it at first. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, ideas and like let's kind of talk it through. We could probably get like a Teams chat going on, or some type of what do you call it, like a Zoom call or something, to kind of hammer it out before we actually do it. something cool happened today. So I used to, here's a true story. For some reason, I moved back to Missoula, and this is probably telling kind of like about me and my personality. I've lived in Montana for 20 years, and then every 3 years, I'm like, I'm out. I'm going to go spread my wings. I'm going to go do something else. And then I just go elsewhere in the nation and just do that for 6 months, for anywhere between 3 months and a year. I'll just go somewhere. And so then I will come back to Montana. And because I do have a good reputation, 2 things, and I would tell anybody this: show up on time and be a vibe. Like, bring a good attitude with you to a job. And because I've been doing this for 20 years in this town, showing up on time and having a smile on my face, like being a good coworker, prayerfully, like thankfully, at this point, I can just pick up the phone and say, hey, are you hiring, or like whatever, right? But back in the day, I used to just come back to Montana and know I would find a job because I have really, 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 really good references. And so one time I came back and I ended up living with like this guy, Brian, and his transgender like girlfriend. And like, this person was cool. It was like a guy, but like a girl, but they were moving out for whatever reason. I don't know. And I soon found out, but I was paying the rent and I wasn't on the lease. And I remember I had paid my rent. And then the next day or 3 days later, he was like, we're getting evicted. And that was a life lesson. It's something I tell my kids, is like, make sure your name is on the lease. If your name is not on the lease, you don't actually live there at all. But anyway, I was homeless. But because I have a pretty good, what they call social capital, I just went to a friend's house and stayed on their couch. And then I don't really believe, so effectively I was like homeless, but they were like, you're not homeless, you have us. I didn't have a home. And I'll tell you this, baby, like, I'm not really one to be out there like that. You know what I mean? So I hurried up and I found a place, and it was like a converted garage. It was a 2-bedroom, and I took what I learned, and I've done that ever since. I will rent a house and then interview roommates. And I know this is going to sound shady. Some people think this is super shady, and maybe it is. I will interview roommates and then not put them on the lease. So if we don't get along for some reason, you got to go. You got to dip. I don't want that around me. And you're not on the lease, so you got to go. I understand that can be shady, but the lease is in my name. So ultimately, I'm the one on the hook for thousands and thousands of dollars. I haven't done that at my own place, so I don't do that anymore. But anyway, that converted garage, there was a landlord named Aaron. And then it was a 2-bedroom. And then I wanted the 1-bedroom, and I moved into that. She owned that too. And then at another point, I had left Missoula, and then I had come back, and I rented a room in her actual house, her personal house. And Aaron's just like super cool, whatever. And then as I just kind of progressed through life, I told you guys I was in the housing sector. I was a social worker, and Erin is like very anti-Christian, anti-conservative. So she was renting out a room in her house, and she was saying, they can't be a Christian and they can't be conservative. And I was like proposing this to people because I worked with homeless people, and everybody thought this was like the worst thing ever. And how can she discriminate? And I'll say this, as a conservative Christian, And I've said it before, not everybody's welcome in my home. Do you know what I mean? And in the way of, for instance, this is a sober house. There's no drugs. There's no alcohol. Don't be coming in loud and crazy. That's not what my house is for. I don't tolerate that. So if you are on drugs, you cannot come in my house. And I think that is fair because I pay the bills. Like I can be comfortable in my own home. And so I get the sentiment that like, oh, it's anti-Christian and blah, 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 blah. I really do feel like you can dictate who is in your home and who is not. And my larger point to the organization was, so somebody who fits the bill should be denied then housing because of a principle. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I saw her today and she was like, oh my gosh. And I think it's funny sometimes. She was trying to rent another room in her house, and I got online. I was like, yeah. She was saying no conservatives, no Christians, and I was saying like, yeah, Erin's like a pretty solid person. Like she's very opinionated in the way she moves, and she does that right. But she's a good person to like rent from. She'll leave you alone, and it's clean and blah 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 blah. And she was like, thanks, Lakita. But in my defense, I was like, she was so nice to me. She said, in my defense, you weren't a Christian or a conservative at the time. And so I think that sounds shady, but you kind of have to know. Anyway, I saw her today and we were like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. And recently she's been very on the type of time that like men should not be in women's spaces, which I completely agree with. And that, no pun intended, that translates to like the trans population with the mixing and mingling, and I can be in the women's bathroom and blah 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 blah. And it's like actual women are not with that. We ain't with that. You know what I mean? And I think it's actually refreshing to hear a woman just speak up for that. She's very loud. And I was telling her today, like, I really appreciate it. I will like every post on that. And so anyway, she asked if we could go to coffee. And I said, yes. I said, let's go have a kombucha. But ultimately, I would like to interview her for entering the chat as long as and Allison kind of called it out. There was somebody I was going to interview and they were a little too excited to bash Christ. And it's not that type of party. It is not that type of party. And so I want to just kind of see, I know she's not with Christ, but I just want to see maybe like her ability to articulate why in a respectful manner, if that makes sense. Let me see here. Allison says, will your cousin assist? He sounds like a great voice of reason. Oh, my cousin is the best. And there always needs to be a godly man with good discernment, not because women can't be, but that it's God's order. That's a really good. I don't know why I didn't consider my cousin. I think that's great. Yeah. Or Ben. Yep. Ben, I don't know his theology, but from your talks, he sounds wise. Ben's very, very wise. Ben, I don't know if I told him, but the men were in his men's group were talking about him. And the only reason I know why is because the women, they're married. The women are married to the men. You know what I mean? And the men are trying to like figure out how to get Ben like more into like a leadership role, but it's not Ben's church. So I don't know how he feels about it. I don't know if I told him in the first place. Anyway, or Ben, I don't know his theology, but from your talks, he sounds wise. My husband has spot on discernment and weeds stuff out so well. Yeah. Someone like that that helps to hold people accountable to the word. Yeah, both of them. And then Lord Poppy's here says that is a little shady. Dang, it won't put people on your lease and eats your child's. Oh, Bobby! Bobby! Wow. I mean, she's not lying. I did eat my kid's sandwich. I ate my kid's sandwich. The girl I mentor, I ate her sandwich. I bought Afton 2 art cakes, ate both of those. I don't remember if I did, I didn't say it. Got Ben an art cake, ate his. Yeah, I mean, she's not lying. She's not lying. Oh, the Lord is working on me. The Lord is working on me. You know, Key V art cake. I know. I gotta show you guys these things. There's just hello tiramisu cupcake. I mean, do you really need to hear more about that? And you want me to like hold on to it for hours? I don't know. And then the lease thing, yeah, I think it was definitely like a protective measure because it happened to me. I also, and this is saying probably far more than you, if you can read into it if you want. I'm not a really big commitment person. It's just, I'm hard to like, you can't really like tell me what to do or like lock me down really. And so in a way, I'm beyond the point of having roommates, but God willing, I don't want to put that on myself. I'm not at a point in this moment in time of having a roommate, and the idea at this point in time sounds really scary because people beyond drugs, they have particular ways about them. I'll tell you one thing, one way I am like stupid neurotic. Close the cabinet door. You want to see me turn up in this house? Leave that door open. Leave a drawer open. Leave a cabinet door open, because one thing I did tell you probably multiple times at this point was to close it up and keep it closed all the way. My poor kids. Over the years, they've said they wanted to come back and live with me. And each time they say that, I am shocked, because it's like, do you not remember how like turned I get about like, if I want something a certain way, I really mean that with my whole chest. And I don't care that you're a kid. I told you. You know what I mean? They know crazy Key. And I get crazy over like, see, I think we all have things, right? We all have things that like, the kids today call it icks. We have things that like get on our nerves, and then our kids know that about us. So sometimes they go ahead and do the thing. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, how that translates to roommates. I think that's if God will allow it, I would like to, we're looking at like a husband. We're looking at like a sacrificial love or something like that. Cause I can't see it. I can't see it for me. So what I'm trying to say is, in my defense, I don't think I would not lease somebody. When I think about rentals, like rental properties, and maybe this sounds shady too, but a month to month is like, I have a friend that passed away, but she was a property manager. And when I worked with homeless people, I was always trying to like get her to rent to the homeless people. And she was like, nope, she did that one time. She worked with like a program, and then the person trashed the unit, causing thousands of dollars of damage. And then the program they were working with was like, that wasn't part of the deal. We just said we would pay for the renting, not any damages. And she was like, that was it. But I will say, and I'll say this now because she's passed away, so it doesn't really have any consequences. I did work with her under the table. And again, I really want to highlight how important it is to be like, and I really strive to be an honorable woman. So if I say something, you could probably put money on the fact that that's the case. Now, do I lie like anybody else? I guess from time to time, but it's like super rare. And I tend to feel bad and tell the person I just lied. But anyway, I was working with her kind of under the table to rent to homeless people based on my word, my assessment of them, because not all homeless people are the same. And we need to kind of be differentiating, right? And mind you, I worked at the homeless shelter for 4 years. So I've like really done my time in this sector. But there are definitely like homeless people that you kind of like see on the corner. There's free spirits. They just don't want to get a job. There are people who just don't want to get a job, and they do want to beg, and they do want to smoke their weed, and they do want to do their drugs. And then that's what it is. And so we have to stop denying that this type of homeless person exists. And when we're talking about homeless, like, oh, they just need a hand up. Some people really don't. But we can go all the way to the other side of the spectrum. I just told you, for me, about with homelessness that I just went through. And actually, this last time I moved back to Missoula, like 2.5 years ago, and I rented a room in this like a historical, it's like a historical house. It was really nice. But the lady was going through a divorce and was having a dang old mental breakdown. And she gave me a 30-day notice the day after Christmas and said, Lakeitha, is nothing against you. I just don't want you to witness my mental breakdown. I'm like, cool, but I just moved in a month ago and it's the middle of winter. And school, we live in a college town. School just started. So this is like the absolute worst time for me to be looking for another place. So anyway, my friend that passed, again, reputation is everything. I just posted it online like, oh, I need a place to live. And she said, hey, come through, gave me the key. I looked at it, signed it, and there you go. And then, life progresses and everything gets good. But so 2.5 years ago, technically, I was facing homelessness. And I'm fine in life. You know what I mean? Like I'm broke, so don't ask me for nothing. But like I had the savings and the rental history. Like I was a perfect candidate and was still facing homelessness. So there's people on that side of the spectrum. And what we're seeing right now, actually, with homelessness, particularly in the town we're in, I don't know, but the homeowner will die and the kids just sell the house. That happened to a friend of mine. They lived there for 7 years. The homeowner died. The kids were like, okay, we're going to sell it. We don't know y'all. Like, we don't have any attachment. And it displaced like 3 generations that were living in that house. That's a common thing that's happening. Or rent is getting hiked up really quickly, which is another reason to buy. I know people are like, oh, I can't buy a house. And it's like, you better get to figuring it out. It's not an impossible task. It really isn't. You know what I mean? Be near impossible for some people. Yeah, absolutely. But one thing is sure, 2 things for certain. Rent will continue to increase. They say in 10 years, whatever you're paying, it'll be double that. So you got to get some skills. You got to get you a degree. You got to start you a business. You got to pay down that debt, and people get tore up about like, whoa, I should be able to eat the avocado. Don't tell me not to eat the avocado toast and have the coffee every day. And it's like, bro, $5 a day times 30 is $150. Why would that not be something you would like? I don't know. And the middle class is about to disappear. It's about to get bad, I think. I always said in my lifetime, we'll say, without saying how old I am, in the next 50 years, I really do believe with my whole chest there will be either a race war or a class war. Like, there will be some type of major upheaval. And it would be wise to like prepare for that, I think. But yeah, nobody asked me a question. Dang it. Oh, you know who else I saw today was the mayor. She had her sunglasses on. I was like, are you the mayor? On the food truck. I was like, are you the mayor? And she was like, yeah, I am. I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but I met you like a year ago and I told you, I'm going to get you on my YouTube channel. I don't know what people think about this YouTube channel. Like, the people around me, I don't know what anybody thinks about the YouTube channel. And I kind of don't want to know, because if it's negative, it's like, if it's negative, it would be like, well, how do you know? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's this kid I follow. I do not like his music at all. I don't like his music. But I like the fact that he looks kind of funny. But I like that he started a YouTube channel and he sings on his channel. I don't think he sings very well either. But like, I just appreciate it could be, I'm not going to say, for me, it's not hard to get on camera, but I will say this. Once upon a time, I was an entertainer, and I'll get in front of thousands of people and do my thing. And I always peed my pants. That's a little known fact and a very real fact. I used to pee my pants because I would get so nervous while I was performing. And anyway, I was telling my friend who was a model, who also gets in front of people, how nervous I was getting. And she was like, it doesn't really matter what anybody, and this is how I feel about it now, it doesn't really matter what anybody has to say because they're not doing it. Like, they're commenting on you doing it. And I think that about celebrities or whatever. Like, yeah, this celebrity says they like to eat worms and kick puppies. And it's like, I don't know, like support them or don't, but like they're still gonna do the role, and they're still gonna, I don't think it's hard to put yourself out there, but I think I think it's kind of dumb to comment on people who are putting themselves out there because you're not doing it. And what you could do instead, like if you're mad at this person for kicking a puppy and making content about it, you could make content in support of puppies instead of like being weird and being like, ugh. You know what I mean? That's what I think about it. Allison says, I have a question. As a social worker and being a Christian, do you evangelize to your clients? If not, does it bother you that you don't or can't? Yeah, I'm actually grateful that my coworkers, I don't tell anybody I work with about my channel, except my one supervisor, interestingly enough. Because I'm probably not going to be there forever. One reason, so the 9 to 5 that I work, I'm back there again. And I told you guys a little bit about it. Like, I worked there a couple years ago, and then I got headhunted by a Christian organization for the same position, but $10,000 more per year. And they really, I had said something like, I want to be able to pray in the place. And when I tell you, they really latched on to they gaslit me, basically. They really latched on to the fact that I wanted and really love the idea of being able to pray with clients and pray in the workplace. And as a matter of fact, at one of our last meetings before I left after, it's because of this. I was leaving due to mistreatment. They were just like very mean to me. The concept of Susan came out of that workplace. It was very toxic. I left the job that I'm in now. I left it initially because it's supposed to be a Christian. It makes itself seem like it's a Christian organization, but it's not. For instance, I have a trans youth on my caseload. And before I left last time, there was an issue if I would be sending, I want to make sure I'm respecting confidentiality, but sending that youth to a group home that matches the gender they want to think that they are. And I was talking to my supervisor and I was like, I'm not going to be doing that. And then collectively in the agency, we're referring to that youth by the pronouns that they want to be. And I think when we're dealing with children's mental health, we are really hurting that child and delaying that child because there's a lot of things to address, and doing this pronoun thing with them is not getting them closer to being a functioning 18-year-old in society, because people aren't going to to bend like that. And also the youth doesn't even seem to be that, like the psychiatrist in our organization is like from a different country. And he just straight up calls the youth the pronouns that they actually are. And nobody's like worried. Nobody like says anything. So that's why I left last time. And then I came back because it's a pretty easy job and like, but in the way of evangelizing to clients, I do have Christian clients and we do talk about Jesus. As a matter of fact, one thing I'm always very careful of is boundaries. I do not want somebody who I'm supposed to be helping to think I am their friend. The reason why is because lines can get blurred in the way of, and in my heart, you're a client. So it'll never be, you're not a client to me. And so when clients start to like love you or like, I think that's okay. Like I love my therapist, right? But how you treat a friend is different than how you treat a professional. You might start to hide important information or get a little disrespectful maybe where you wouldn't have otherwise with a professional. So I will say this, I would like to be friends with one of my clients that is a Christian. And I have requested that she gets moved to somebody else so that we can be friends. I will say that. But she's a Christian. There's another one that's a Christian. I had a client when I was there before. They are Christians and they adopt. And I've checked in with them for the past 2 years. They're not on my caseload anymore. And not only that, you could say I've become, so that's actually, I know I just said all this whole thing about like clients and boundaries and stuff like that. If a client is like a devout Christian, it's not that I'm more friendly, it's that we have a different language to use. We have a different framework that we're operating out of because you've been praying for your child. Do you know what I mean? And so I too would like to pray for your child. If that is not the case, what we're going to do is like a lot of services, a lot of resources, a lot of this, a lot of that, and none of it has to do with God. So no, I don't directly evangelize. I will say I do maybe like test to see if someone's a Christian up front, and that might just look like praise God. Or I might just ask them, are you a believer? Because the language of believer, right? If you said, do you believe in God? People think all sorts of things. They do this. I don't know what you're thinking if I just say God. But if I say are you a believer? That's Christian. What do you call it? Christianese. And so that's what would open the conversation, or it's no. And by me asking if people are believers, no one's been offended or anything like that. And I do have some like pretty anti-Christian people on my caseload. And I just, hold on. And I just don't talk about God with them, So I guess that's your question. No, I don't really evangelize. I'm going to pray for your kids if you let me pray for them. And if you don't want me to pray for them, I'm probably going to pray for them anyway. I'm just not going to tell you about it. Allison says, I love hearing about the drama. I love hearing about the drama sides of your work, to be honest. I just find it so interesting. Like when you talked about how you can't turn around with ED children's stores. Oh, yeah. Maybe drama isn't a good word, but yeah. And that, yeah, I think the experiences I've had have made me maybe a more aware person. But I always say, there was a guy when I first started my channel and I was like, hey, 3+Kei, your favorite social worker. A guy wrote, and I don't know what, it was obviously some mental instability, but he wrote 3 long paragraphs on a particular video. And he was like, nobody likes social workers and blah, 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 blah. And I was working with a social worker and this happened and blah, blah, blah. And nobody likes you guys. And it's like, clearly you're projecting. But I will say this, and I don't know where people stand, because when you say police officer, not everybody's sitting up here like Blue Lives Matter. Not everybody is on that type of time. There are people who kill police officers just to kill them, right? I will say this, and I will stand on it every single time. And that is police officers, emergency personnel, social workers, and like emergency room people. We hold the dirt, the seedy underbelly. We deal with the seedy underbelly of society so you don't have to, so it doesn't spill out, because your neighbors beat their children, black and blue, right? Imagine how that would affect you to know that. Instead, here comes CPS to sort that out, right? And I always say, like, by the time you see any of us, you don't want to see a social worker. You don't want to be dealing with a police officer. You don't want an ambulance right there, right? By the time you're in the hospital emergency room, you don't want to be involved with us. So respect us. I know there's like this thing with CPS workers. They are not out here snatching children. That's the worst job. If you see a freaking CPS worker, that's the worst job. Everybody hates them, probably more than cops. People hate CPS workers. And it's like, you can't always make the right call, right? First of all, there's not enough places for the kids to go when you take them. There's just not. There's not enough group homes. There's not enough shelters. There's not enough foster placements. So like, where's a kid going to go? And not to get on a tangent, but do you know what happens when a kid gets removed and there's nowhere to go? The CPS worker that has their own family at home, they have to bring that kid to the office and stay overnight and work overtime to find anywhere that'll take that kid. And then if they leave the kid and the kid dies, then it's their fault. But then they take the kid and all these lies are made up about how they wrongfully took the kid and blah, 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 blah. Oh, CPS workers are like, they're so hated. And it's like, I was just dealing with one. She had to take one of my kids, an aggressive teenager. She had to take him and spend the night. And I was like, I won't lie. I was like, you might as well quit. Because They set you up, girl. They set you up. Like, man, it's the worst. Shout out to CPS workers. Allison says, I'm sure there are people you don't want to deal with. Yeah. All the time. All the time. I don't know what the kind of the solution is to move over to the professional friend where people are like paying. It's called private pay, like without insurance. They're private paying for social work services, because then you're getting kind of like the right crowd that want the help. Allison says, sometimes CPS isn't getting involved for the right reasons. Not always, but I have heard of stories where the intervention and showing up was unnecessary, but you've changed my perspectives. I'll tell you this. In 15 years, I've heard many people claim CPS took their kid for no reason. In 100% of those circumstances, there was a reason. There just was. And so even the process of getting CPS involved is you're like tiered, like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 3 is like they'll make it over to your house in like 2 weeks or whatever, or like a week, 7 days. That's tier 3. Tier 2 is like 48 hours or 72 hours or whatever. And then tier 1 is like immediate. Like there's a likelihood the child may perish if you don't hurry up and get over there, right? And then when kids are removed immediately, that's tier 1. That means there is, if we don't remove this child, we will, I myself as a professional will be deemed negligible. I could face charges. That's how bad this situation is. If I see this child is like this. Do you know what I mean? And what people will say is like, no, my best friend got mad at me and she called CPS and she made false claims. The claims must be substantiated. They have to be substantiated. And I could tell you about the foster care system too, because I was a foster kid. People like to excuse bad behavior. And I was saying it to Afton the other day, and I don't know how she took it actually, because her kids are adopted, so are mine, and then I have foster parents myself, and I'll hear people say, this is another thing, people who were in the foster system be like, the foster system is terrible, and I was in 20 different placements. Keep it real. You had bad behaviors. You had big behaviors that caused people to say, you gotta go. If you imagine the average everyday person with just like a good heart and they want to help you out, there's only so much that they're going to put up with. And it's not going to be violence or sexual assault or getting cussed out every 2 days. Like, you got to hold that. Yeah, you were a foster kid, but yeah, you like to buck up and cuss these people out when they really didn't do anything to you. You got to be real about that. You got to own that. But nobody wants to hear it when I say it. But I have license to say it because I too was kicked out from placement to placement to placement. But I can hold that. I'm smoking weed in your house. And y'all are just, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta take accountability sometimes. And that is lacking in our society. Allison says, I can see that. I didn't mean the taking of children, but just CPS showing up and asking questions may be unwarranted. That's scary, though, what you're talking about. I appreciate you being real about it. Yeah, so CPS is going to show up. Because think about this. When people think about CPS just at my door, yeah, your neighbor could be like, oh, Allison beats her kids. and then CPS shows up and now you have them in your face and it's a big deal. But let's say your neighbor, Sarah, she really beats her kids. She really is starving those kids. How does CPS know the difference just based on a phone call between you and between Sarah? And if you had to pick between CPS not showing up at either houses or at both houses, which would you pick? It's annoying, sure, and I get it. And sometimes they're annoyed themselves. Sometimes because you're also wasting time every time they get one of these fraud, and not for nothing. That's why people need to be charged, because there are people, I'm mad at Allison, so I'm gonna call CPS on her. There really are people like that. And for some reason they don't get charged. I think that should be a thing. I really do. And I mean the book thrown at you, because you can't just sit up here and make malicious. But as it is right now, like, I'm considered what's a mandatory reporter. So what that means is if I suspect any abuse, I mean, pretty much of anybody, but especially vulnerable populations, I'm mandated by law. Like, if I don't report that, I get charged and fined. Do you know what I mean? And so sometimes, like, I had a kid like 5 years ago or whatever, and he was like starting to act up real bad. And he was like, he was like, I was taking out the garbage yesterday, da 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 da. And my mom smacked me, and then her boyfriend put the belt on me, and blah, 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 blah. I'm a mandated reporter, because I don't know if they're just whooping him, which, I don't agree with whooping, but whooping isn't a crime. Beating your kid to some degree also is not a crime, unfortunate to say. Do you know what I mean? But there's a point. And if I don't know what that point is, if I can't discern it, what if you are like getting manhandled at home and you're 8 years old and I knew about it, and something happens to you and I never said anything? So that's the other side of reporting to CPS. And in a group home setting, I think that's the worst. I will say this. I've definitely been a part of children being removed from their mom, and it's not like it's not like something you do lightly at all. And I'll tell you the instances where that happened. It was not feeding specifically babies. It was moms not feeding their babies. So you can see why there needed to be an intervention. Allison says, yeah, so like as someone that homeschools, I'm a Christian and don't vaccinate, and I've been told I'm a target for those reasons. Is that true? That's what I'm talking about. Like, so no, you know what I mean? Like somebody, let's say I'm, Judy, your neighbor, and I'm like anti-Christian, and I know for some reason that you didn't vaccinate your kids. So maybe I call CPS and they're going to look at your kids. They might say questions like, do you have enough to eat? Do you have blankets on your bed? Or the type of questions they would ask like a child. They might ask you, can we just take a look around? Maybe you can say no if you want to. Do you know what I mean? But that's your decision. It's not illegal to not vaccinate your children. Now, coming soon to a state near you, maybe that will be the case. But as for now, It's not. You know what I mean? And so what it is like somebody who doesn't like what you've got going on, call CPS. But again, if it's both houses or no houses, every time you want both houses checked. And if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to hide. And most people just don't have anything to hide. You know what I mean? She says, dang, I wonder what that's like between abuse and legal beating is. Oh, the lines. In most places, it's leaving a mark. It's leaving a mark. And so I'll say this. I don't know how that works with like light-skinned people. But you know, my mom, I mean, she beat us with like cords and stuff like that. And one time I remember she beat me so bad. I'll never forget it. It was a belt with a silver buckle. And she beat me so bad. You can see how dark I am. Like I've never in my life had a bruise. I was covered with bruises and welts that were in the shape of the belt tip. I was beaten. That's abuse. That's abuse. My sister, I don't know if she still does, had whip marks down her back from extension cords. The prongs, that's abuse. Do you know what I mean? And even me, who does not believe in even spanking, I don't believe in the chancla. I don't believe in tap tap or pow pows. I don't believe in any of that. But the chancla isn't going to leave a mark like that. You know what I'm saying? And also the argument when I hear people saying like, you can't even leave a mark. I'm like, dang, how bad do you want to beat that baby? How bad do you want to beat that child that you want to leave like welts and marks? Like that's wild to me. You want to mark them? That means that's all your force. That's crazy. You said, do you have a lot of false report cases? Does that really drag you guys down? I'm not in CPS. In the realm, I'm in children's mental health. I will say this, and I'll be careful saying it. Not every kid that I think sometimes children do not have mental disorders. I think their parents could benefit from parenting classes. That's what I have to say about that. That's what I have to say about that. And so when I speak of like, you know, I don't know if you know, I kind of got one right now. Is almost like do you know, I've thought about quitting. I have one right now that I've thought about just packing up and leaving. Cause I'm like, this, I don't know. I gotta use the bathroom. I know I normally pray out, but I gotta tinkle. This was fun. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll see you at Ben's house. I'll see you at Ben's house tomorrow. Bye, girl.